Some 30 plus years later, I now sit as CEO of the largest private equity infrastructure development firm in the southeastern United States. We're responsible for delivering approximately 40,000 home sites for five of the largest home builders in the U.S., publicly traded big boys, as I'll refer to them. Taking the legal background, the business experience in the real estate business has allowed me to really channel that entire skill set into building this beautiful business that we now have.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Land Development Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Glick. I'm excited today to be joined by David Feingold. David is the CEO of Broadstreet Global, a private equity firm based out of South Carolina. David, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I like to start all of these episodes is really just getting a background of my guest and how you got into the industry that you're in right now. So, what I'm interested with you specifically is you're obviously in private equity right now with your company and really with a focus on land development. And how did your path take you to that? How did you get into that?
Sure. So I went undergraduate in law school to Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, and got a great number of opportunities based on that education. And a number of those opportunities included working for law firms, restructuring firms, and got my feet wet doing the grunt work, which is always part of learning a business. And that was before the internet existed. So you actually had to physically prepare the documents, read the documents, understand things. There was no AI, there were no real forms and word processing where you just pressed a button and things printed out. So it was a good time to be involved in development and businesses because you really had to pay attention to detail. Um, After having my stint at private law firms, I went out on my own, had a firm, but my firm was rather unique because it was really backed by my own capital. I had a couple of good exits early on where I had taken pieces of equity in businesses. And so I decided, why not have my own law firm, have my own business, and fund my own projects and properties? And some 30 plus years later, I now sit as CEO of the largest private equity infrastructure development firm in the southeastern United States. We're responsible for delivering approximately 40,000 home sites for five of the largest home builders in the U.S., publicly traded big boys, as I'll refer to them. And taking the legal background, the business experience in the real estate business has allowed me to really channel that entire skill set into building this beautiful business that we now have.
Well, awesome. And I mean, the next question I was going to ask you was about your company, and you gave a little bit about it, but maybe a little bit deeper into Broad Street Global and just in general what the company does and how it gets involved in projects.
Sure. So we take a business and real estate development look at what we do. Typically, we will go and be the big equity partner purchasing lands for master plan communities. We will then, because we're vertically integrated, we will take our construction company, our in-house legal counsel, our specialists in zoning and entitlements and engineering, and put them all together and convert a big piece of dirt into a highly usable master plan community where the home builders come in and they go vertical. We do the water, the sewer, the gas, the electric, the road, the curbing, the water retention ditches, the grading, the grubbing, the clubhouses, all the amenities. We even go down to building the gatehouses, the fences around the development. So literally the home builders come in and it's one-stop shopping with us where they literally plug into the utilities and go vertical and build the homes. And so we're unique in that aspect. In the traditional model of what people do in the infrastructure world, they're usually interconnected with a daisy chain of 10 to 15 subcontractors that they're all relying upon and hoping that their schedules work out so that they can try to produce a project. We take it differently. We do it all vertically. And because of that, we're able to do it on such a mass scale. And we get the economies of scale, obviously, the price savings by being so large and having everything in-house. So that's what we do. And I could go on and on because as a result of that, we have ancillary businesses that have come into their own to be large businesses, because I'll give you one example. If you knew where all the major home developments were going ahead of time, ahead of everybody else, you'd certainly buy all the land around those developments as well and use them for commercial development and restaurants and gas stations, and that's what we do. So we've got many divisions now going, but our heart starts with our primary love, which is the private equity backing of the master plan communities.
All right. And so it sounds like from what you said there, you're getting in from before any dirt is turned, you're going in raw land, and that's when you get involved in these projects. Is that right?
Yeah, I have the distinct opportunity of walking huge pieces of land, hundreds and thousands of acres with trees everywhere, and then coming back 5 years later and seeing hundreds and thousands of homes in those locations. So yeah, we start from the very, very beginning, down to the paperwork of getting everything zoned and entitled and platted. So we do it all.
So we have quite a few developers who listen in to the show. Some of them, they finance their projects all different types of ways, and with private equity being one of those ways, if a land developer was looking for a private equity firm to partner with, whether it's yours or a number of the others that are out there, what are some of the things they should look out for to make sure they don't get into a project or into a partnership with a company that may not be the best partner from a private equity standpoint?
So look, the basic of business, and this is something everyone quotes Warren Buffett, so why shouldn't I? One of the things Warren Buffett says is you got to have a moat in your business. You got to have something that makes it unique so that other people can't come and copy you. And our moat obviously is being vertically integrated and being massive. But the other important part, and it's logical, is profit margins. If you're getting involved in development and your pro formas before you put a shovel in the ground don't show spectacular profit margins, you are asking for trouble, because the issue is when you have large profit margins and you make mistakes, you still leave yourself enough room to be profitable. If you have really razor thin profit margins and you pray that the project's going to work out and you make mistakes, you're likely to lose money. So, you know, rule number one, make sure that your projects show on paper before you move an ounce of dirt that there are spectacular margins involved.
Okay, where do you see the biggest disconnect between builder developers and private equity?
It's understanding the business. So we're fortunate and we do both, right? We do the private equity end of it, but we also control the construction and development. So we have to wear both hats. So that allows us to really understand the building process. If you're a typical developer that doesn't have your own exclusive private equity source like we do, then you're literally going to Wall Street or going to financial centers and trying to convince people that spend their entire day sitting at a desk looking at spreadsheets, why your project's going to be successful and why you understand how to develop that project. And unless you have an incredible track record, and not only a track record of completing projects, but completing them profitably, it's probably unlikely that you're going to have a private equity person recognize that. And so you could be a really young developer, really talented, but without the track record, you may not be able to convince people, even though you have the capacity and capability. So I would say for most people trying to get into this business, you should probably joint venture up with someone that knows what they're doing with their track record in the beginning. Pretty dangerous to do a project by yourself for your first project. I didn't. I spent years joint venturing with other people before I went out on my own, lost all my hair, went bald, and proved that this is a business that will keep you up at night, but the rewards are outstanding.
And you may have said this already, but is your organization going out and actually finding the land, or are these builders, these master plan community developers and builders, are they coming to you with a project and then you're then considering going in and being private equity as a part of that project?
So we have another benefit. So we are extraordinarily large in the Southeast. In fact, I'm not aware of anyone bigger than us, quite frankly, in the Carolinas. There's some that are close, they're similar, but the way we work because of the size of our company is that typically the large builders will come to us and explain to us where they're looking. Explain to us that they want to be in a certain geographic location where they're a certain number of miles from a hospital, a certain number of miles from a school, a certain number of miles from a major highway. And we can pretty much take our team and put them out and find that land or assemble that land into one giant piece of property that would be appropriate for a 500 to 2,000 home site, home development. So we kind of know where they want to go. Sometimes they come to us and they've already identified the property, but other times they simply identify the parameters that I explained before.
Yeah, you had mentioned that you've walked, countless acres of land, of all these different projects you've done in the past. Is there anything that stands out to you from all of that time where you've walked land of where maybe the things you're looking for, or some things as you're walking it before the project starts, you're considering purchasing the land that just stands out to you that, hey, this this is going to make a good piece of land for us to develop?
So you have to be able to look at a piece of land and try to visualize what's going to go on around it. That's the most important part because in order to get in at the proper price for the dirt, you generally have to be away from super populous areas, right? Charlotte is a great example. Everyone wants to be in Charlotte, but if you're really close to downtown Charlotte, guess what? Land prices are prohibitive, and you can't put a large master plan community now close to downtown. But if you go 10 miles outside downtown or 15 miles outside, and you're able to really study what's going on, who's pulled permits around the properties you're looking at, visualize what's it's going to look like in 5 years when your project is done. That's where you're going to get the best value for your dollar because you're going to buy the land cheapest and it's going to have the greatest upside. So it's almost like Kevin Costner said in the movie, build it and they'll come, Field of Dreams. It's almost like that. When you do these massive communities, you can't do it like a guy who builds townhouses that he puts up 10 of them in a downtown area. It just, you have to really think about what the future holds for a place.
Yeah, what is it about the Carolinas that has you operating in that part of the country?
Number one's affordability. So you can get really reasonably priced land. Number two is the demographics. You have a skilled workforce. You have a lot of people moving there because the taxes are much lower than the Northeast. You have lower crime rates. You have cities there that are pretty modern and attractive. For example, Greenville, South Carolina, absolutely beautiful place, modern buildings, modern downtown, and yet you're only an hour and a half away from Atlanta, an hour and a half away from Charlotte, so you can go to major sports teams, etc. So affordability is big. I mean, very few places in the United States right now can you go outside of the Carolinas where you can get, say, a four-bedroom home for $300,000. It's very unusual and have the same quality of life I'm talking about with professional sports teams and artistic endeavors. So it's very attractive to us. And our specialty is doing the master plan community developments for the starter homes, the homes that are less than $500,000. And that's really a big part of the market that, irregardless of what's going on in the economy, people always want to buy their first home. They may not be able to trade up, but they want to buy that first home. And so even if mortgage rates are high and they may have to cancel that family vacation that they were looking forward to save the money to get the down payment for the home, they'll do it. So it's a great market to be in and a great location to be in with those demographics.
Have you, just out of curiosity, is it something where you have operated in that part of the country, but you've tried doing developments in other areas as well? They just didn't pencil the same way as the ones do in the Carolinas?
Well, that's exactly right. So we do business right now. We do business in North Carolina, South Carolina, Northern Florida, uh, Tennessee, Georgia, and still the Carolinas pencil the best in terms of what we do. And obviously, if you do different types of real estate, it's a completely different analysis. But for what we do, they're the best.
When you think back on all of the different projects that you've worked on over the years, do you have a particular project that really stands out in your mind that you could kind of walk through the details of?
Well, I'll tell you, it's actually going on right now. So what what we've done is in the beginning, we would focus on projects that were maybe 300 homes, 400 homes. And now what we're doing is we're going into these massive projects where it's 2,000 home sites, 3,500 home sites. And so right now is what I'd say I have more days behind me than ahead of me in my working life, but it's actually the most exciting and interesting part because we've gotten to the point where we can do these massive communities. And right now I'm looking at a community to do, which would be 10,000 home sites, which would be the largest in our history. But if you look at the size of our organization, how many people that we have, we once calculated and we figured that we have about a $10 billion economic impact in the Carolinas with all the work that we do. And there's probably somewhere about 5,000 people that either directly or indirectly work for us or work on our projects. And so we're at the scale now where we can do these what I'll call mega projects. I mean, even our projects in the beginning, which were several hundred home sites, most developers would consider that large. We don't consider that large anymore. So now we're at the point where the mega projects is what we're interested in, and those are enduring projects that instead of taking 4 or 5 years to complete, they'll take 7 to 10 years to complete. So we're at the most exciting part right now.
Yeah, what were I'm curious about this as you're talking about that the size of the organization and everything and all the different, people that in one way or another are connected to your company. Um, what were some of those growing pains like? From doing some smaller projects or fewer projects to where you're at today, talking about doing a 10,000 home master plan community. What does that look like?
Well, look, the biggest challenge is to have good groups of people that are happy. Any successful company that you see out there, it comes down to people. And something that I've often said when I've been interviewed is that you can have a great product and terrible people, and you will not make money. You can have an average product and have great people, and you're going to make money. So it comes down to the people. One of the statistics I'm most proud of that I often talk about with regards to the organization is I have about 50 partners in the organization, and we have never had a partner leave, ever. So what's interesting about that is I'm in finance, I'm in private equity. Typically, people will leave after the year-end bonus comes out and search around and shop for a bigger compensation package, and we just don't have that. People stay with us, and it's look, my partners have ownership interest in our business. They're extraordinarily happy. All the partners vacation together, socialize together. We go on retreats together. 3 months ago, we went to military training together, which sounds interesting. We had a bunch of Army Rangers and Navy SEALs, and they took us for 2.5 days to strategic military training ground that all these armed forces personnel go through, and we went through it obviously pretty miserably when you compare it to
That's amazing,
professionals.
though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but the point is you build this bond with people that uh, allows them to just really appreciate working together and stick together, and without that, it would be impossible to be successful. So it's the people. We do have a great product, but at this point, I think with the people we have, we could be in any industry and be successful. We just happen to choose and stick with this industry.
Yeah, I'd always read and heard that if you sweat together and struggle together with your team members, that you grow closer together and everything. Do you do you see certain traits or characteristics or skill set that your partners have in common that allow them to be successful and to stick around and be good in their jobs?
Absolutely, and it's called staying in your lane. Every single one of my 50 main partners in the private equity end, there's one thing that's interesting. We all have a different skill set in life. We all have different things we're good at. Some people are great athletes, other people are great at playing cards, whatever it is. As long as you acknowledge that and recognize you should stick with what you're good at, and that's what our company's really great at. We have guys that are experts in 1031 exchanges. You know what? They don't get involved in the development end of things, and because they know that's what they're good at. And so we've been successful at having everyone recognize that they have to trust their partner, have to trust the skill set of that partner, and it also reduces the opportunity to have arguments with people, right? This guy's a particular expert in his particular area, and so we defer to that person to make the decision. And so we have a bunch of people that are specialists in a bunch of different aspects of the business. And it goes all the way down to the back office of the business. I rarely, if ever, walk into our back office, and it's massive and lots of people because there's people there that run it that are experts in it. So that really is another big part of the success of our business. It's just people staying in their own lanes.
Well, on that note, did you ever find yourself early on in the company having to be the jack of all trades, or were you always looking for somebody to plug in with that expertise to bring on to the team, even from the early days?
Always, always. From 30 years of being around business and law firms and seeing who was successful and who wasn't, you have to find the experts in their areas and let them do what they do and give them autonomy. You would speak to any partner in our business and they would tell you they feel like they're their own boss. They make their own decisions. And there's a history of very successful businesses that exist in America that have followed that exact same playbook. And so, we just follow what has worked in the past. I mean, I'll give names of famous business people that you won't recognize their names because you're much younger than me, but this is a recurring theme. You find really great people, you give them a lot of autonomy, and they're happy in those days.
Well, let's go ahead and shift into the last segment of the show. So, call this the lightning round. So, I have 5 questions for you, just all related to your experience and everything. Interested to get your thoughts on them. First one here is what's the first thing you look for in a land development project?
Profit margin. It's got to pencil out and it's got to be huge.
Second one here. What's one thing most people get wrong about private equity?
They think it's easy. They think you just throw other people's money into a deal and that you're detached. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, it's somebody else's money. And that is anyone who's sincere about this business. We take every win with a lot of pride, but every loss, and there's lots of losses. It's business. We take it to heart. It hurts. And we have our own capital at risk. So when our partners lose, and I mean, our investors, we lose just as well.
All right, third one. If you could fix one thing about the land development process, what would it be?
Government. It is so difficult, zonings and entitlements. And it's also great because look, we have all these lawyers in house. We have all this money that we can spend to get things done. So it gives a barrier to entry to my competition who maybe can't afford all this. But it's pretty distressing and disturbing. When I started in this business, I could get something zoned and entitled in less than 6 months. And now we see projects that can take a year. It shouldn't be that way. Progress is all about moving quickly.
All right, fourth one. What are a couple key traits you look for in a developer or builder when deciding to partner on a project with them?
So number one would be track record. Number two would be work ethic, and that's more important than anything. I'm notorious for calling people about 5 a.m., emailing people 3 in the morning, and then I want to see how quickly they get back to me. If they don't respond quickly, it means they don't have that fire in their belly to succeed every day, and we're not interested in doing business with them. Side note, real quick story. I had a very large and famous investment banking firm. I asked them to send me an engagement agreement. I told them I wanted it in 24 hours. They sent it to me in 72 hours. I did not hire them. One of their principals called me and asked me why, and I told them that's the reason why. I don't care how big your name is on Wall Street. If it takes you uh, missing a deadline by several days, and that's the start of our relationship, that shows you're not hungry. We don't want to deal with people that aren't hungry.
All right, last one here. What's one thing every land developer should do before taking on private equity?
They should understand the true cost of capital. So what's interesting is you can have someone quote you a deal, but if you haven't analyzed what the true cost of capital is, what the origination fees are, what the actual percentage of a deal you're giving up is, you may be tricked into believing you're getting a deal when in fact a deal that sounds like it's more expensive is actually less expensive. It all boils down to math. Be good at math or you're not going to be good at this business.
Yeah, love it. Well, what's the best way, David, for people to connect with you or learn more about your company?
So you can go to our website, which maybe you can flash it up here at the end of this, and that will tell you all you need to know about the business. And I think the website is broadstreetglobal.com. And it's funny because I tell you, I think the website, that is the website, but I don't go look at it very often, but lots of people do. But yeah, broadstreetglobal.com, and you can learn more about what we do.
Perfect. So yeah, I will put the link to the website on the show notes for this. So those of you listening in, if you look down in the description, you'll see a link there to the show notes page where you'll find a link to the Broad Street Global website. So David, really appreciate you hopping on here and talking through some of this. Private equity conversation is not something we've had on the show before. So this is a new topic for our listeners that I know they'll get a lot of value out of. So again, really appreciate your time and expertise on the topic.
Well, and thank you for your time as well. Have a great day.
All right, guys, that's all for this episode. We will talk to you all next week.